Good morning and welcome to the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. Madam Secretary, please take the roll.
Senator Daley, here. Senator Ellison, Senator Flores, Senator Lang, here. Senator Rogish, Senator Scheibel, here. Senator Steinbeck, here. Chair Pizzina.
Present. Thank you so much. Please mark Senators Rogish and Ellison absent excused. Please mark Senator Flores present when he arrives. And please note that we do have a quorum. We welcome our members today in Carson City as well as those in Las Vegas and those joining us online. I would like to point out today we are going to take the bills a bit out of order. Do you have the agenda? We will be taking Assembly Bill 116, Assembly Bill 430, and then Assembly Bill 63. Also note that we're starting a little bit early today as I am due for an 8 a.m. presentation upstairs this morning and am already supposed to be there. So I will be leaving shortly. We'll also have members in and out today as we do have a number of members presenting. However, we do have a quorum at the moment. And before we begin, and I hand it over to our very capable Vice Chair, Daley, I'd like to remind everyone to please silence all of your electronic devices while in the committee room. Members of the public may provide testimony in various ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. You may also submit public comment in writing, either in addition to testifying or in the place of testifying. And if you do wish to testify in person, please sign in at the table by the door and provide our committee secretary with your business card. When testifying in person, please turn the microphones on to speak and off to listen because we have others listening in and viewing the meeting in Las Vegas as well as online. Please also state and spell your name for the record. Anyone who'd like to receive electronic notifications of scheduled bills and access to the committee's meeting materials may do so by signing up on Nellis on the legislative website. And committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other materials, so please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. I would also like to point out today that we are going to put a time limit of 30-30-30 on testimony in support, opposition, and in neutral. So please do note that, and we'll have a 2-minute time constraint per person so we can get as many people speaking as possible because we do value the contributions of the public, and we're so happy whenever anyone calls in or comes to visit us, whether in Carson City or in Las Vegas. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our vice chair to open up our first item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for going through all of that preliminary stuff. We'll see you back soon. So with that, we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 16, well, 116. Proceed when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Daley and committee members. I am Assemblymember Selena Torres-Fawcett for the record, representing Assembly District 3. Obviously, while the chair's out, there will be no horsing around, but we'll get right to business. Thank you for the opportunity to present AB 116, which revises provisions relating to food delivery service platform providers. This interim, I chair the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Government Affairs. During the final meeting of the interim, it was brought to the committee's attention that some businesses who utilize food delivery service applications such as DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats are conducting business illegally under the name of other legitimate businesses. Some restaurants in the food delivery service applications may be delivering food that may not come from an actual restaurant, at least in the traditional sense. Imposter restaurants use the branding in many of the restaurants in our communities, and consumers order food from these restaurants with the belief that they will be receiving food from that restaurant. And we'll hear from a restaurant owner in just a moment as well. Mr. Trees, if you want to start making your way to the dais as well, because I'll pass it to you shortly. And he'll be able to tell his story of how this impacted his business. Now, I know that Nevada is known for wild horses roaming freely, but when it comes to food delivery, we shouldn't let phantom restaurants run wild and unchecked. These ghost kitchens are straying a little too far off the trail. The advent of these imposters have given way to concerns over consumer safety and ethical business practices. Regarding the safety of our citizens' health, there are reports of inconsistent food quality and poor food handling practices. These businesses may not have a valid permit issued by the health authority, making it difficult to regulate and inspect for public safety. Further, it poses unfair competition against legitimate licensed food establishments, since imposter kitchens can dominate search results on food delivery apps and can threaten the reputation of reputable restaurants in our community. I'm joined today by Mr. James Trees, who is the owner of Esther's Kitchen, a very popular restaurant in Las Vegas. I'm going to pass it to Mr. Trees, who can share his story. And just hit the
Sure.
mic and then state your name for the record.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is James Trees, Jamestrees. I'm the chef owner of Esther's Kitchen, also Lido Posto. It is wine bar, bar bohem, petit bohem. Having so many restaurants now, to find out that Uber Eats was allowing an odd like pizza restaurant on Eastern to use my branding, my pictures from my website, and then using that information to take in orders. And then we were receiving bad Google reviews and bad Yelp reviews because people thought they were ordering from my restaurant, and they would get a cheese pizza that doesn't look anything like what we serve at my restaurant. And I saw the pictures on Yelp and on Google, and I had to investigate and find out how and why this person got food delivered to their house, since we don't do any to-go food or any delivery, and we don't use any of the delivery apps. So it was really interesting when I looked up Esther's Kitchen delivery and found that we were on Uber Eats under another address in another area of town that we don't service. So it was very odd. So I reached out to Uber Eats. They initially took the site down. They took the place down, and that, they did the right thing. But then 2 months later, I looked back and they had re-put up the same fake business. And so they knew they had done wrong, and then they allowed it to happen again, which was very upsetting. And we need to be able to protect other restaurants in the city who are doing legitimate business and building a reputation through excellence and hard work. And then we have to protect ourselves from random people who just want to grab our IP and be able to use it and take advantage of us.
Thank you, Mr. Trees. And I think this is only one example of many restaurant owners that I have spoken to at this time that have been impacted by their restaurants essentially being replicated on these platform providers and tarnishing their reputation in the community. If I think I'm ordering a salad from Esther's Kitchen, I'm thinking I'm getting a specific type of quality. And when that salad comes and it's not the quality that I expect, I might not attend that restaurant. I might leave a Yelp review or a Google review. And that impacts business and it impacts their customer base. And honestly, this is impacting consumers. And so this piece of legislation is attempting to ensure that we are properly penalizing imposter restaurants, as well as platform providers that leave these restaurants on their sites. At this time, I'll go ahead and conduct a brief walkthrough of the bill. Section 1 of this bill prohibits a food delivery service platform provider from facilitating an online order involving a restaurant unless the operator has obtained the required permit to operate by the local health authority. An establishment who violates this provision or provides false information to the platform will be subject to a civil penalty not to exceed $100 for each order fulfilled. Further, the measure specifically provides that if a platform provider receives specific verifiable information that the restaurant is dispensing food without a health permit or otherwise has provided false or misleading information to the food delivery service platform, they must remove the establishment from the platform provider no later than 10 days after receiving such information. A food service delivery platform is guilty of a civil penalty not to exceed $500 for each day that the offending establishment remains on the platform. However, I want to be clear that this is a penalty will only apply after the 10th day. So there are 10 days that platform would have in order to remove the food dispensing establishment from their platform if they do not have, if they are not meeting those standards. I want to thank the industry for working with us so that we could come to this final draft of the bill before you today. This is a demonstration of the good faith efforts to negotiate and work together so that we could find a compromise that really does ensure that consumers are able to get the food that they believe they've ordered. Thank you.
I'm assuming you're open for questions now.
I am. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Committee, Senator Scheibel.
Thank you so much for bringing this bill. I think that we were talking here on the dais about those of us who have experienced this or seen this happen, and you have to be a real jerk to do that, to take someone else's like restaurant menu and their photos and things like that. I think that cracking down on that is absolutely, a worthwhile policy. And in reading the bill, there's a similar problem that I'm wondering if the bill addresses. And I think that there are some restaurant operators who have terrible food and terrible service who will just reopen under a new name. So, one day you order from whatever, Salads R Us, and it sucks. And so the next day when you go on Grubhub, you're like, oh, here's a new place called Salads for Me. And it turns out just to be Salads for Us using a new name. I understand one bill can't fix all of the problems. I'm just wondering if that would fall under the same kind of deceptive practices.
For the record, Tom Roberts with Meridian, Nevada, representing Nevada Justice Association Chair. Can I through you to Senator Scheibel?
Straight over. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Senator Scheibel, so the way we crafted this legislation is that you're supposed to have a business license under that specific name and specific location. So in your scenario, if somebody were to change, they would have to pull a new business license with a different address, and they would have to be verified by the food platform. And then one correction on the presentation is originally it was a health district license. We changed that to a business license because of the difficulty in verifying that information with speed and accuracy on the amount of applications that the platforms receive. So that was something that we did change.
Well, I think this is a great bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any, Senator Steinbeck?
No, I agree, and thank you for using the word jerk. They are jerks. I agree. So, thank you for bringing this bill. I'm just curious. So, this is criminal activity, right? I mean, are we not getting arrests for fraud?
For the record, Tom Roberts, Nevada Justice Association. Correct. You could charge folks for obtaining money under false pretenses or some kind of criminal behavior. The reason we brought this forward is that it needed some kind of policy fix so that it holds the platforms accountable. There was really nothing in statute that held the platforms accountable. The original bill was actually a misdemeanor for them, and so obviously that was a little harsh, and so we came together with the platforms to get the language that you see before you today.
Thank you. One follow-up. Please, is there any provisions to assist in making the restaurant whole?
So originally, for the record, Tom Roberts, NJA, originally we had civil fines that could be leveraged for that purpose. I think they could still do that under these. These are all civil fines, and I believe that could be earmarked for the restaurant if they lost business or were damaged in any way.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you bringing this bill.
Thank you, committee. Any other questions? I just have a couple, and I think touching on what Senator Steinbeck was just saying is, so this was already illegal for these ghost kitchens, I believe, as you call them. They're supposed to have a business license, health inspections. So that part of it is already illegal, and you could have caught them if you can catch them, right? And then, so now just so I'm clear on the civil penalty part, so the restaurant that's damaged can go to court and sue, and the court can award those civil damages. Same thing. So I think the real, and you can tell me if I'm right the way I'm understanding it, is on the food delivery people. They've got the bigger fine. They've got the responsibility to take them down once they get this information. So the gentleman that testified down there, when he realizes somebody's doing this, then he can start to go after them, but he can notify all of those providers, and they better do something, or he can sue all of them. But you have to go to, the person that's damaged has to go to court and start a lawsuit. Is that correct?
Assemblymember Torres Fawcett, for the record, yes, that's all correct.
And I understand that it's a start, and this is probably just the tip of the iceberg on this. this morning I heard on the radio, right, of an event that happened with an online guy bought a Lexus, called the place and they answered the phone. And it was just a clone of another business. There was no car. They took the money. End of story. So it isn't just in this level here. But any other questions, committee? Seeing none, if you can step back, we'll.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And just so the committee members know, we are closing education budget, so I am going to head to ways right now, but I really do appreciate you all for taking the time to hear this hearing.
No worry, thank you, and we understand this at the time.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so at this time, we'll open testimony in support of Assembly Bill 116, either here or in Las Vegas. Please come forward. Proceed when you're ready.
Good morning, Vice Chair Daly and committee members. This is Sam Anastasados from the law firm Kempfer Kroll, and I'm here on behalf of DoorDash. We are in support of the bill, and we would like to thank the bill sponsor for working with us on our issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else coming forward for testimony and support in person, broadcast, do we have anybody on the lines for support testimony for Assembly Bill 116?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 116, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Vice Chair, you have no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. With that, we'll ask for testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 116 here or in Las Vegas. Seeing no one coming forward, broadcast, anybody on the line?
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 116, please press star 9 now. You have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Anybody in neutral on Assembly Bill 116 here or in Las Vegas? Again, seeing none, broadcast.
If you would like to testify neutral on AB 116, please press star 9 now. Vice Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. And I know the Assemblywoman had to leave, and she was making horse comments and all that stuff, but everybody knows we're going to miss Star Wars Day. May 4th is a Sunday. So we're going to be trying to make the Kessler run in record time this morning. So with that, we'll close the hearing on Assembly Bill 116, and we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 430.
Thank you, Senator. Michael Hillerby on behalf of the Independent Payroll Processors Association. Our sponsor, Assemblymember Flanagan, is on her way down from her own committee, so if we can hold for just a moment. That's all right.
We can hold, but we got you on the clock, I think. We're up. Here she is. Just in time. Welcome to Senate Commerce and Labor. So proceed when you're ready.
Well, good morning. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Good morning, Vice Chair Daly and members of the committee. For the record, I am Tanya Flanagan, representing Assembly District 7, and I am the sponsor of Assembly Bill 430, which exempts persons engaged in the provision of payroll processing services from provisions governing money transmission. Payroll processing services handle tasks like calculating wages, managing tax withholdings, and making payments to employees and taxing authorities. They are often not considered money transmitters due to the specific nature of their operations and the reduced risk of harm to consumers. Payroll processing involves a specific regulated context, such as employer-employee relationship, and the funds are used for legitimate purposes, including wages and taxes. In 2023, the legislature passed and the governor signed AB 21, which was the Money Transmission Modernization Act. Generally, a money transmitter is a person or entity that receives funds from one party for the purpose of sending them to another party. The act standardized the regulation of companies subject to money transmission laws and included providing payroll processing services within the definition of money transmission. Please allow me to share my reason for carrying this piece of legislation. District 7, like many other areas of the state, is home to small businesses, businesses with 20 people or less comprising the team. This legislation will impact small business positively. To give you more on how AB 430 translates to good business for Nevadans, I will turn the mic over to Mr. Michael Hillerby, Director of Legislative Affairs for Camper Crowell, to provide background and technical information on this issue.
Thank you, Senator. Again, Michael Hillerby on behalf of the Independent Payroll Processors Association and the Payroll Group. As the Assembly member mentioned, and we want to first thank her for bringing the bill forward and working with us, that this is in response to the 2023 passage of the Model Money Transmission Law, AB 21 last session, which for the first time included payroll processing in the definition of money transmitters. Our clients believe that was not an appropriate classification. They have always been and continue to be regulated in other ways, which you'll hear more about shortly from one of our presenters or other presenter. Our clients believe payroll processing was, again, not the money transmission contemplated originally when the legislature considered the law. The idea of money transmission between one consumer and another, someone holding money for things like a stored value card, a lot of new financial technologies coming out in cryptocurrency and other, and apps where taking money from individual consumers, is much different than payroll processing, where there is a business-to-business relationship, where payroll processors are registered agents and reporters to the IRS, where they have to work through federal banking rules and laws through the automated clearinghouse, which again, our presenter will talk about more shortly. Almost 95% of payroll runs through that automated clearinghouse, so we'll talk about some of those rules. There have been states and the federal government have looked at this issue. I think most recently the state of New York in 2022 about whether this should be regulated. The Department of, get the name correctly, the New York State Department of Financial Services looked at that and concluded at the end, as outlined in this report, the few instances of malfeasance in this industry have primarily been addressed through existing tax and fraud laws, and based on decreased reports of payroll service provider fraud, preventative initiatives of recent years appear to have been effective. They made the decision not to do that. And importantly, if you look at the exhibits that we submitted, one is the map of states where some version of the Model Act has been passed. That was recent as of April 30th. It shows 30 states, again, with some version. Many chose not to pass those with payroll, and others have gone back and done what we are asking you to do, and that is put payroll, exempt payroll out of that act. The second page of that exhibit shows the 21 states that have either excluded payroll when the act was passed, not included any mention of it at all, or gone back and exempted payroll. So again, the majority of states have done that. The point of the Model Act was to provide consistency from state to state, both in what was regulated and, very importantly, what was not regulated. You'll see that in the FAQs and other information from the Conference of State Bank Supervisors who created the model law. I will like to introduce Robin Imbrogno to talk about a little bit more specifically what the regulation is, and we'll be happy to answer questions. Robin is a volunteer member of the Government Affairs Committee of our client, and she's with us now. I'll let her go ahead with her testimony.
Thank you. Robin Imbrogno, the Payroll Group, Government Relations. First, I'd like to thank you, Michael, and thank you, Assemblymember Flanagan, and your co-sponsors for allowing us the opportunity to speak here today and collaborating with us. I'm here on behalf of the Payroll Group and the Independent Payroll Providers Association. Collectively, our groups represent over 300 payroll processors in the United States, some of which are here in Nevada. Our members consist of small, medium-sized payroll companies around the country. In Nevada alone, there are around 1,200 firms that are listed in the accounting, tax, preparation, bookkeeping, and payroll services industry. Around 90% of those firms are small businesses, which are consistent with the national average of small businesses in the United States. Small payroll companies, most of whom work hand in glove with the CPA community, provide an essential service to local businesses. In addition to payroll processing and tax filing services, it's the small payroll processors that provide that business advisor service to assist people and business owners with wage and hour laws, evolving sick leave, FMLA laws, and many more. During times like COVID, it was the small community payroll processors that worked tirelessly on holidays and weekends to educate and assist companies on concepts like payroll protection programs and made sure that employers knew how to apply for loans. It was our community that explained to small business store owners and restaurants how to use the food credits for sick leave. We worked to explain the nuances of the PPP loan program, how to do the forgiveness reporting, and made sure they understood the restaurant revitalization funds and the shuttered venue grants. When the small payroll providers educated, we didn't close our doors at 5 p.m. as our national organizations may have. We continued to work over holidays and long weekends. If continued, the legislation would make it impossible for our industry to provide the service as we've continued to do so. The costs in this bill are prohibitive for our industry and for our accounting community alike. I want to share with you some of the things that we're now required to do by our banking industry, which is our lifeline to continue to provide services. The bank requires a company like myself to provide on a quarterly basis something called a KYC, which is a quarterly list of our clients. In addition to that KYC, we have to provide a credit review every quarter of all of our clients. The cost for that for us is about $10,000 a year. In addition, we provide a NACHA audit, the National Automated Clearinghouse Association report, an audit of that for that function, which shows that we handle all of our files for the Federal Reserve System in compliance to make sure that there's no deviation from how those files should be touched. That costs us around $7,500 a year. In addition to that, we're required to do a SOC audit. That SOC audit shows that we provide the systems and organizational controls to make sure that we're dealing with other people's money the way that we are supposed to. That costs us around $35,000 a year. Our bank also requires me personally to provide a personal financial statement, and they want to know where my money is at all times. So every year we provide a PFS statement for me. Our bank also requires us to provide an OFAC review on every client. That's an Office of Foreign Assets Control, to make sure that there's no money laundering for any client that we do business. They also restrict us from doing business in certain industries. So any industry that could potentially do business that could money launder. That costs us about another $10,000 to do those quarterly reviews for OFAC. In addition, we meet with our bankers twice a year to make sure that they're reviewing the terms and conditions of their contracts with us and to review the terms and conditions that we have with our clients. To add the burden of MTL licensing into our industry, we would have to add a compliance officer just to review those terms and conditions. That would be about $75,000 a year just in salary. We would have to have audited financial statements in addition to our certified financial statements. That would be about another $25,000 a year. We'd have to have a surety bond in any and every state in addition to yours. And we'd have to pay a registration fee in your state and any other states that we do business in. Why is this all being done? You've heard Michael talk about the Conference of State Banking Supervisors. The original intent was for there to be consistency in this specific space. As these states are looking at the adoption, any state that has put through or put forth this model law, there's been anything but consistency. There's been no consistency in the surety bonds, in the registration fees, in the audit approach, in any of the minimums. There's been no sufficiency in consistency, quite frankly, at all. Consistency with other states is not even sufficient to impose this crushing new regulatory burden at a substantial cost, which raises all barriers of entry when there's never been any. The study that Michael had talked about that New York did in 2022, which was also done in Maryland, and quite frankly, Congress did one as well, all concluded that the regulatory schemes that would be put in place on our industry would be counterproductive and actually increase the cost of risk or theft, and that the incidence of risk in our industry, which is we have a 99.9% risk adversity, is so small proportionately to our industry that it would be counterproductive. We estimate, and I'll just tell you it for my business, the cost of entry in all states for me to put in MTL against all states would be somewhere around $750,000, and the cost ongoing would be about $300,000. For most small payroll companies or accounting firms, it would be cost prohibitive. When the assessment was done by New York, Maryland, and Congress, one of the things that they did come up with is, let's put some online tools together that would help businesses confirm that there's protection. So one of the things that they looked at is the tool that the IRS uses right now, which is the 8655. It's the tool that allows a payroll company or an accountant to take taxes on behalf of that business. The 8655 has a statement in it now that tells the client that they can look behind anyone who takes their tax money. So any company can right now look behind us. We have to notify a client quarterly of that, and they can go online and confirm that their tax payments are being made weekly. So every week, any business can go online and check that those tax payments are being made. They can go on every day, quite frankly, and confirm that. Every state should be doing that. There's an opportunity for every state to do that. And quite frankly, many states do have that opportunity. And the 8655 does that right now for the IRS. In addition, they put forth another piece of that regulation that says you can't change an address with any business in the country without having a business owner notified concurrently that someone is trying to change that address. So both of those things were put in place when Congress did this review. This bill, which is supported by so many other states to not be put forth, would take away the right for most small business owners to provide service to small business owners. It would take away more than 3/4 of the small business payroll community and CPAs, and take away our ability to provide education and high-touch service. We appreciate you and your consideration in allowing our community to remain viable. Thank you.
Thank you. You ready for questions, or you have more comments?
Mr. Vice Chair Daley, if you like, I could go through the sections of the bill really quickly, or we can open for questions. It's at your pleasure.
Whichever you'd prefer.
Would the committee like me to at least go through?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll do that quickly.
Go ahead.
Section 1 of the bill removes payroll processing services from the definition of money transmission. Section 2 of the bill exempts the person engaged solely in payroll processing services from the provisions governing money transmission. Thereby, a person is not required to obtain a license from the Commissioner of Financial Institutions to engage in payroll processing services. And Section 3 of the bill repeals provisions setting forth certain duties of persons engaged in providing payroll processing services. And that is the summary. And with that, we can open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? No questions? I just have one. And it's in Section 3, where you're deleting some of the language about worker pay stubs. I am assuming, and hopefully you can clarify for me, that the requirement to issue a paycheck stub I believe is in other sections of the law under 608 or 607, NRS 608 or 607. Is that going to be handled in the contract that they have, because there's that other requirement to provide one? Are you aware? I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Michael Hillerby. I will need to research the reference to the pay stubs in other state law, and maybe Robin can talk generally about obligations to create pay stubs. Or if your committee staff may know that off the top of your head. But otherwise, we'll get back to you with that answer. I don't know if Robin has anything to add.
I believe it, quickly, I believe it's already required. I was just questioning. Final question. So in 2023, when when we did this, and you guys were clearly in there. So was somebody like, captured by a bounty hunter, Boba Fett, and frozen in carbon or something? Where were they in 2023?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Michael Hillerby. I'll let Robin answer that question for the association.
Thank you.
Answer it quickly.
Robin.
It was just a facetious question, okay? I don't believe anybody was really frozen in carbon.
Robin and Brogno for TPG and IPPA. We did respond to the Small Business Association at that time and did share the costs of implementation. We did have actually an attorney respond on our behalf. We asked several questions. We could not gain any traction at that point.
No worries. Thank you. With that, no further questions. If you'll step back, we'll.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted, again, Michael Hillerby, just quickly thank the Nevada Society of CPAs who supported the bill you'll hear from, as well as the Las Vegas Chamber. And again, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. So with that, we'll take testimony in support of Assembly Bill 430, both here and in Las Vegas. If anyone's here, come on up. We have our 2-minute limit, you guys know.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Society of CPAs in definite support of AB 430. Just going to read a quick statement from our CEO, Anna Durst. Dear Senator Pazina and members of the Senate committee, many CPA firms provide these payroll services to their clients, and this service has never been classified as a money transmission. The unique relationship between the firm providing payroll services and their employer clients is substantially different from the money transmission contemplated in the model law. Employers sign a Form 8655, which was mentioned earlier, which is an IRS document specifically appointing a payroll processor as an agent of the employer. And payroll providers are registered agents of the IRS. They must also follow the automated clearinghouse criteria and various federal banking know your customer regulations. In addition, the Nevada CPAs are licensed and regulated by the State Board of Accountancy. Payroll service customers, and just as importantly their employees, can rely on this integrity and oversight of the existing payroll provider ecosystem to continue to provide a safe, valuable service that benefits both its employers and the employees. Everyone involved can trust that the payroll will arrive on time, and important deductions for taxes, health insurance, and other key issues are handled effectively. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Trevor Parrish with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is in support of AB 430 because we view this policy proposal as a fair and effective way to help small businesses. By streamlining this process for an already well-regulated industry, these small businesses will be able to provide a higher quality of service and can have a more focused view on regulatory compliance. We'd like to thank the bill sponsor for bringing this forward, and we thank the committee for your support on AB 430. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Good morning, Chair. My name is Wesley Harper. I am the Director of Government Affairs for the City of North Las Vegas. The City of North Las Vegas is in support of this bill. It is our intention to be committed to a conducive and supportive relationship and environment for our small businesses. And this legislation helps to maintain or helps to restore a positive environment for the small businesses in our city. Therefore, we are in support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have anyone in Las Vegas who'd like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 430? Not seeing anyone coming to the table. Broadcast, we are over to you. Anyone in support of Assembly Bill 430?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 430, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much. And with that, we will move to testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 430. Do we have anyone not seeing? Okay, come on over to the tables, and then we'll start in our physical locations and then move to the phones.
Okay. Hi, good morning, Chair and members of the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee. My name is Amy Miller. I'm a CPA and Senior Director of Government Affairs at ADP, and I'm here representing ADP today. Thank you for this opportunity to share ADP's opposition to Assembly Bill 430. We've submitted full written testimony, which I'll abbreviate here. ADP previously engaged with Nevada to highlight the importance of money transmitter regulations for payroll providers, which the state agreed with through its 2023 passage of the full money transmitter model law via AB 21. Now we advocate once again that those provisions remain intact. AB 430 would amend Nevada law to exempt payroll services from money transmitter regulations. Payroll companies handle large volumes of funds, wages, taxes, and benefits on behalf of businesses. Without oversight, fraud and consumer protection risks increase, resulting in significant losses for small businesses and their employees. AB 430 would also make payroll providers the only subset of money transmitters exempt from regulations, placing the interests of a small set of providers ahead of Nevada's business community and their workers, who are served by the payroll industry. The trust that small businesses place in payroll providers should demand greater regulatory scrutiny, not less. There are recent U.S. cases where payroll services misuse client funds, resulting in hundreds of millions of dollars in losses for small businesses, causing clients to disperse payroll and benefits twice, and employees to have paychecks reversed. This is devastating for businesses that lack extra cash to cover unexpected costs. Nevada's existing law helps prevent financial harm. Criminal background checks and credit checks help identify risks, and required liquidity ensures licensees can cover their obligations. Regulators also have the authority to conduct examinations. ADP is no stranger to money transmitter regulation, as we've subjected ourselves to oversight under the OCC. We understand the burdens and benefits of responsible regulation and have a well-informed basis for our position today to oppose AB 430. Thank you for your commitment to protecting Nevada's businesses.
Thank you. And if you had full statement, and if you'd like to provide that to the committee secretary as well. That way the full thing can be on the record, and we thank you for keeping it to 2 minutes. And not seeing anyone else in our physical locations in opposition of Assembly Bill 430, we are going to move to the phone lines broadcast. Do we have anyone on the phones in opposition of AB 430?
If you would like to testify in opposition of AB 430, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. We'll welcome up those who'd like to speak in neutral. If there's anyone who'd like to come to the tables to speak in neutral on Assembly Bill 430, you're welcome to come to the tables now. Not seeing anyone who'd like to come to the tables in neutral on AB 430 in our physical locations, we are going to move back to you broadcast. Anyone on the phones who's joined us who'd like to speak in neutral on AB 430?
If you would like to testify neutral on AB 430, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. Would you like to make any closing statements on Assembly Bill 430?
Thank you, Chair Pizzina. I'm going to defer my closing comments to Mr. Hillerby.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Michael Hillerby, again, on behalf of the Independent Payroll Processors Association. Just want to thank the committee for your time and consideration of the bill, and make it clear that we're not talking about deregulating an industry. It's an industry that has been regulated for a long time in other ways, simply exempting it from the money transmission, which was happened for the first time in 2023. Again, Robin, our other presenter, went over a lot of the ways that the industry is currently regulated and the oversight. So just want to make sure that that's very clear to the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee, for your time. I appreciate it. Oh, and Tanya Flanagan, for the record, I forgot to say that.
Thank you so much, Assembly Member, and we will be crossing paths again as I left here to go to Government Affairs, and you will be heading back to Government Affairs. So thank you so much for the presentation today, and with that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 430, and we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 63, revising provisions relating to social media platforms, and we will welcome the Attorney General's team to the table.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Aaron Ford, and I am your Attorney General. Delighted to be with you today to present Senate Bill 63. I will introduce those who accompany me at the table a little later in my testimony. But again, here to present Senate Bill 63 to talk about something that, frankly, should unite all of us, which is keeping our kids safe. This time in the context of digital platforms. We all know that digital platforms are not just a tool anymore. It's seemingly the online air that our kids breathe. They don't remember a world without it. And while it changes the way we all connect, it also gives predators a direct line to our children. I plan to combat this issue with Senate Bill 63. Let's be clear, these predators aren't lurking in dark alleys, and they don't have to hang around the playgrounds or malls anymore. They can slip into a child's DMs or direct messages, and pose as peer-aged friends, and start the process of grooming, slowly breaking down the kids' defenses until they can exploit them. You will hear testimony from my investigations team about how predators shower a kid with attention, compliments, and even gifts, such as virtual game tokens. They make a child feel special and understood, like they finally have someone who gets them. Over time, they manipulate the child into taking risks, sharing personal details, photos, or engaging in conversations they would normally not have. Once that happens, things escalate pretty quickly. We've seen the cases. Children being blackmailed, harassed, and in some cases, lured into real-world danger. Committee members, this isn't a hypothetical. It's happening right now. Investigators in my office and across the state are working these cases every single day. These predators are smart, they're patient, and they're relentless. And the digital platforms make their job way too easy. Also, you're going to hear from students about their experiences on digital platforms. You'll hear how their friends access illegal substances and weapons with ease. This bill takes simple, common sense steps to put real guardrails in place. First, children under the age of 18 are required to get consent from either a parent or a guardian of a minor. There's also a provision for minors who have been emancipated. This bill applies only to platforms that are operating in Nevada and to users in Nevada. That's worth noting. This bill also locks down children's data. Companies can't collect age verification, companies will collect age data verification, but then they can't turn around and use it to track or advertise them. We're not giving corporations another way to profit off of our kids. Keeping our kids safe shouldn't be optional, and we're making sure that it's not. But keeping kids safe online isn't just about blocking predators either. It's also about the well-being of our children and adolescents, the mental health issues that we are all quite familiar with. On this point, I readily admit that the data suggests that adolescents can actually benefit and have beneficial experiences with age-appropriate use of social media. But there's also a large body of data showing a full-blown mental health crisis among our children, and we can't afford to ignore it. What we know is this. According to the Pew Research Center, 95% of youth ages 13 to 17 say they use social media, and more than a third report that they are on social media almost constantly. Exposure to cyberbullying and cyber hate leaves children feeling more isolated, more anxious, and depressed than ever before. Content that encourages self-harm and maladaptive behavior is warping their self-esteem, especially for teenage girls. Platforms are designed to be addictive, keeping kids locked into an endless cycle of comparison, validation, and exposure to content that can be toxic. Social media platforms and other digital platforms, we all know, are built by design to keep people, especially impressionable young people, engaged as long as possible. Algorithms push extreme content because it keeps users hooked. They actually collect more data the more time these users spend on their platforms, and the more data they collect, the more money they make. Our bill seeks to curb corporate malfeasance with two provisions: no notifications for minors between midnight and 6 a.m. No notifications during school hours between 8 and 3, Monday through Friday. And no algorithmic recommendation system for minors. And finally, let's address one more thing: misinformation. People aren't born into media literacy. They are still learning how to tell the difference between fact and fiction. And social media is full of bad actors ready to take advantage of that. These platforms give predators and scammers a direct pipeline to young minds. I'll conclude by saying this: social media inspires all kinds of conversations. Policymakers, parents, teachers, we're all weighing the harms and the benefits of social media use by our children. Senate Bill 63 takes into account research and data on harms while balancing access for teens. Overall, this bill makes the digital platform safer by requiring social media platforms to enact limits and protections for our children. At this time, I'm going to introduce the young lady to my left, who is Bethany Ferris. She's going to provide you with the most important testimony, in my estimation, that you're going to hear today about her daughter, Vicki. Bethany.
Hi, my name is Bethany Ferris, BETHANYFARRIS. Good morning, Chair. Thank you for having me here this morning. My daughter, Victoria Kramers, was born on June 12, 2013. She died August 23rd of 2024. I came home from work and I found her hanging from her bed. She absolutely had to have this bed. She made me buy her this bed. A day that I will never forget. I could tell you every minute of that day, from when I woke up to when I went to bed that day. She looked up how to tie that knot from TikTok. I later found out, detectives told me, that she had a reel playing on her phone about how 5 years from now, she was going to try over and over again. And when I packed up her room, she had clothes that she had tried over and over again. She had ended up using a pair of leggings that ended up being her demise. And the effect that it has had on my life and my family, it tore us apart. My sister is here today, but we don't really talk anymore because she's so hurt and we don't know how to handle the grief of it. I've lost my home. I lost all my animals. I lost my job. But I'm in a process where I'm taking one step at a time and I'm moving forward and I'm getting my strength back. I still have another daughter. And I never really focused on suicide with my younger daughter because I thought, at 11, how does she even know what that is, you know? It was my other daughter that I was always worried about. We had been working on her because she had tried 3 times before. So I had always been so focused on her and had kind of hidden it from my other little girl. And I was always so anti-social media with my 11-year-old daughter that I didn't know that she had these hidden accounts. And she did TikTok, but she did all the silly little dances. And, you know, I thought that I was always aware and on it with her. And no, it got to her. I mean, I'm telling you, when I tried to get her down from that bed, this knot was like a military knot. And there needs to be something that helps other mothers who don't lose their baby. There's got to be something that they're not able to look that up and be able to do that, something that can protect them. I mean, for a fact that an 11-year-old was able to figure out how to get up on this bed and tie this knot and end her life, there's got to be some protection out there. thank you for listening to me today, and thank you for having me here.
And thank you so much for being here and sharing your daughter with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany. We really appreciate you sharing your story. Thank you for being here. Ms. Ferris actually reached out to my office a few months back when she learned that my office filed a lawsuit against several social media platforms for the negative impacts that they were having on the mental health of our youth. So my office is running parallel tracks to ensure that we can protect the most vulnerable in our societies, including our youth. And in the context of digital platforms, we're here today. Also accompanying me in Southern Nevada is one of my investigators, Donche King, my supervisory investigator, who will discuss a little of the work that my office does in this arena as well. If I could indulge you, Madam Senator, very well. Mr. King, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to start out by first offering my sincere condolences to Ms. Ferris and her family. Definitely a tragic story. And good morning, Chair Brazina and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Donche King, and I serve as supervising criminal investigator at the Nevada Attorney General's office. As part of our work in the Bureau of Criminal Justice, our Human Trafficking and Missing Children Unit conducts investigation into bad actors who seek to prey on Nevada's children. But just because these predators are seeking to use our children for immoral and illicit gain does not mean that they are not sophisticated. Our office combats these enterprises while also teaching the community, both kids and adults, on the dangers of digital platforms and how to stay safe on them. And I'd like to spend a couple of minutes here to provide the committee with some insights into human trafficking in the digital age. These digital platforms that SB 63 addresses play a significant role in how predators attempt to groom, recruit, and exploit our children for human trafficking. Example, grooming starts when predators create fake profiles on these digital platforms, posing as fellow teenagers or kids to gain trust and gradually manipulate children emotionally. Next, these children are recruited with promises of money or fame, friendship, convincing youth with jobs, experiences, money, and gifts through various digital platforms. Predators are able to send real money or virtual game currencies through digital platforms, especially during streaming sessions or live games. Further, these digital platforms are often interconnected, letting predators convince youth to join additional platforms so that they can gain more personal information about the child. Finally, once trust is gained, sextortion, leading to exploitation, occurs in various ways, such as convincing the child to take and send inappropriate or explicit photos of themselves. Then, threats are made to the child that these photos will be made public unless they comply with further demands, which occur both online and in person. That's the damage inflicted upon the victim. But imagine, just imagine, what the family and friends experience. It's an understatement, but there is a high level of shock when it's discovered that a parent's child is being preyed upon. Now, you will soon hear from opponents of this bill that their specific digital platform has safeguards and cutting-edge technology that prevents this type of digital trafficking from taking place. Let me be clear. We have seen every digital platform that this bill addresses used as a vehicle to prey on Nevada's children. Every single one. These digital platforms provide personal information of its users, such as location sharing, birth dates, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, identity of close friends and relatives. This provides a predator with a wealth of information about a child's life, which they study diligently. These predators also hone in on emotionally charged posts related to loneliness, sadness, financial problems, or other insecurities that a child may be facing to groom, recruit, and exploit our children. Our office and investigators see these scenarios on a nearly daily basis. I urge the committee to support Senate Bill 63, in order to protect Nevada's children and aid us in rooting out those who seek to prey on them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. King. And Madam President, finally, in my case in chief, I'd like to offer the mic to my Chief of my Consumer Protection Division, Mark Kruger, who will go through the bill section by section, discuss a couple of the amendments that we've accepted, and then we can open it up to questions if it's okay.
Thank you, Attorney General. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mark Kruger. I am a Chief Deputy Attorney General in the Bureau of Consumer Protection within the Attorney General's office. I'm going to quickly take you through the bill, and then as Attorney General said, we can certainly answer any of the questions that you may have. Quickly going through the bill, Section 2 identifies this act as the Nevada Youth Online Safety Act. Sections 3 through 11 provide definitions that are applicable to the act. Section 10 provides a definition for what was a social media platform. We are accepting an amendment to make it a digital platform throughout the entire act. Highlighting the amendment that has been submitted, there was some exceptions that we agreed to under this particular provision or definition, and those exceptions are for electronic mail, cloud storage, educational instructional material that are used within Nevada schools. In addition, online shopping or e-commerce, as long as they conform to the age verification. In addition to that, a certain within a corporation's company, they have some online communication between employees or employees and the employer of that corporation. So we certainly have done that as well. And then interactive gaming, and that also includes social gaming products, but as long as they are affiliated or owned by licensees under the Gaming Commission. Going on to Section 13, that's the age verification provision, which Attorney General Ford alluded to. We're acting for a reasonable verification with a approximate 95% accuracy, which we think is very much doable and attainable. We're striking Section 14. Section 15, I just want to provide we're removing a provision so the whole act will apply to children under the age of 18. There is also included in there a protection for the digital platforms for a good faith reliance on the information that was given for age verification. In Section 15, subparagraphs 3 and 4, we provided that these platforms will need to provide parents with a right to revoke consent to being on the platforms at any time. In Section 16, it provides for emancipated minors to be able to join the platforms. Section 17 will be deleted by amendment. Section 18 prohibits the use of personal information, in particular of the minor, in an algorithmic recommendation system, and provides additional definitions for that. Section 19 requires the platforms to disable infinite scrolling, the display of interactive metrics like likes and shares, if some of you are familiar with that, and also to disable autoplay of videos and disable live streaming of videos. Section 20 provides that General Ford talked about, it's the restrictions on the time of use for school hours and at night all throughout the year. Section 21 makes a violation of this act a deceptive trade practice. And that concludes the overview of this act. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kruger and Senator Pazina. With that, we stand ready for questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you so much again for sharing your story. Do we have any questions from the committee? Senator Scheibel and then Senator Steinbeck. Actually, let's start with Senator Steinbeck because I know you have a presentation to get to, so I want to make sure we get to you before you have to leave.
I appreciate that, Madam Chair, and thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for sharing your beautiful daughter, and sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through a little bit about how this would actually be implemented, right? So, for instance, on one of the social media sites, what are we actually going, or what is the expectation going to be to actually verify the age?
Thank you for the question, through you, Chair, to the Senator.
And you can go direct. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Mark Kruger for the record. So, Senator Steinbeck, the platforms themselves will be responsible for implementing the age verification system and finding presumably a third-party provider or creating one themselves to ensure that it has a 95% accuracy. As far as enforcement, it would be a violation of deceptive trade practices if it was discovered that they aren't meeting those standards. Oh,
Thank you. And are they successfully doing that in any other states, or are any of the platforms successfully doing that to a standard that we would find acceptable now?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question. Mark Kruger for the record. So we looked at other states, and we looked to see what states are bringing this social media or digital platform type legislation as we are bringing. 18 states have passed similar legislation. Of that, there are several states, 5 states, that have actually enacted age verification. Not exactly the same as ours, but something similar. 4 states, unfortunately, have been enjoined. However, 2 of those states are looking like it's going to, those enjoyments are going to be revoked. So we're looking at 7 additional states that have introduced legislation in 2025 that would do the same type of thing as well. One other thing, Chair, if I could add, in going over my thing, there was one other discussion that we wanted to add. There were some concerns about having the ability to discuss or have a conversation with some kind of medical health care provider and a patient during using some sort of a digital platform. We are amenable to having that type of exclusion as well. We think it's important, and it addresses certain groups of children who would need to talk to a counselor, a school nurse, athletic trainer, medical professional. So we've provided, or we're working on a proposed amendment to also adopt that. So I just wanted to add that as well. Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up question, Senator?
One final. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And so, gaming platforms are excluded. Is that correct?
Senator Mark Kruger for the record. That is correct.
Okay, and that is a big area of problem for groomers and predators. I was just wondering why they're exempt.
We have found that under the Mark Kruger for the record, we have found that under the Gaming Control Commission has direct authority over those licensees and do provide an area of protection and regulation over those licensees. We also looked at the social media or social gaming programs and platforms that are out there and find that as long as they're connected to those Gaming Commission, they will be able to be regulated through the Gaming Control Board. So that is the reason for it, and we feel that that's an exception that's acceptable.
Okay, and then how about video games?
Video games are captured by the digital platforms.
Of course. I wanted to make sure before you go present, we get your questions answered. I'm going to move to Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Chair. I actually have a lot of questions. I have 5 written down at this point, and they're not follow-ups to each other. So if you'll let me get started, you can cut me off when I've exceeded my quota. But I guess I'm just a little bit confused about the approach here. On the one hand, it seems very extreme. Now, I'm not sure how the amendments in Section 15 and 16 would affect this, but on my first reading and we just got this 29 minutes ago. We've had 29 minutes to review this amendment. And so when I read the bill, it looked like anybody who was under the age of 13 would be completely prohibited from utilizing any social media platforms. So why take such a drastic step?
Thank you for the question. Aaron Ford for the record. I'm not quite sure why you got that 29 minutes ago. We had that amendment ready a couple of days back, and so my apologies. That said, the 13 and under restriction has been removed. It is now saying that anyone under the age of 18 has to get parental notification or parental permission to be on these apps. But also be clear about this, the federal government also has regulations around 13-year-olds relative to their ability to be on social media. But that said, we did view it as, use your phraseology, a bit extreme at the outset to say no one under 13 can be on social media. And so I instructed that we would accept an amendment to say we would not have that blanket prohibition, but instead say anyone under the age of 18 would be required to have parental permission to be on these apps.
Okay, if I may, I appreciate that. So then it seems like if they get parental permission, it's binary. It's okay, either you're not allowed on the app, or once your parent allows you on the app, all of the floodgates are open and now there are no restrictions on what the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old is allowed to do once they get their TikTok or Facebook or Instagram account.
Mark Kruger for the record. Thank you, Senator. Just to be clear, the parental consent allows them onto the app. The bill also has additional restrictions that have prohibited acts that are what are the dangerous acts, frankly, and that is the infinite scrolling, the display of interactive metrics, the likes and the shares, the autoplay of the videos, the live stream of videos. Those are all restricted for those particular minors. And in addition, you have the time of use restrictions. All of these things are cited to be helpful in re-engaging minors into productive activities. As General Ford said, there's a recognition that certain apps can, on certain platforms, can provide a benefit to certain minors, but it has to be with guardrails on it so that these minors are safe on the particular apps. And this act does just that.
Okay, can you direct me to the section of the bill that addresses the infinite scrolling and the time notifications?
Yes, Senator Mark Kruger for the record. Section 19 provides the restrictions on infinite scrolling, the display of interactive metrics, icons or emoticons, which, and it goes through, videos that begin to play without the user first clicking on the video, and then the functions that allow a user or advertiser to broadcast live video content in real time. And then if you go to Section 20, Section 20 provides the time of use restrictions that we discussed.
Okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, Section 19, subsection 2, I mean, I have an Instagram account, right? I pull up my friend's post from yesterday when she took her daughter to the aquarium and it has 18 likes. And so my question is in two parts. The idea here is to allow children to utilize Instagram but not be able to see how many other people liked the photo and also not be able to like it themselves.
Mark Kruger for the record. That's correct. It's to limit the amount of social interaction that these children are bombarded with and to prohibit the algorithmic recommendations, which is, in Section 18. And so what happens is these likes are used as a functional tool to then pull more similar information and bombard these children. And unfortunately, those algorithms will push information that can be very, very dangerous, like ideology of suicide, like body dysmorphia, and other things that harm children.
Okay, and do social media platforms already have are they already doing this? I mean, are they programmed to allow an account holder to not have access to the like and share function?
Senator, I would respond, Mark Kruger for the record, that Ms. Ferris here in her testimony showed that they're not doing it. If they have the ability to, they're not doing it.
So that's actually my concern, is that they don't have the ability to do it. So if I am a social media platform, and maybe I'm not Instagram or Facebook, I'm not a multi-billion-dollar company, maybe I run, a smaller website for children of deaf adults, okay? An important community that needs to have connection to one another. And we have a function on our page where you can like and share stories, pictures, whatever. Now I have to ensure that everybody who signs up for an account on my website, not only do I have to do age verification, but now I have to be able to limit certain accounts to say, after I spent years building this platform that includes a share button, now I have to figure out how to disable the share button only for the accounts that belong to people under the age of 18.
Senator Mark Kruger, for the record, in our discussions with certain digital platforms, they're telling us that the technology exists to do just that. And indeed, when you look at other states that have passed similar legislation, they're going to have to do it in those states as well, as in the state of Nevada. Now, this is only restrictive on minor users. So adults can still utilize your website, and that's a decision that has to be made for a particular person, or you can provide consent to have these children on there. Sure, you have to restrict some of the use, but certainly not all of it.
Bethany Ferris for the record. I just know with my daughter, I really think that it's this thing called sad reels. And what happens with these sad reels is you start watching one thing, and what happens is eventually that's all it becomes. I think eventually what happened with hers is everything just became suicide. So it gets in your head, and it just became unlimited for her. It just suicide, 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 suicide. And there was no cap. It didn't turn off for her. So it became so embedded in her head that that's all she thought about. And it became maybe this is what I need to do. Maybe this really is the answer. She didn't think about my mom, my sister, my family tomorrow, and I don't get to see her graduate middle school. I don't get to see her get married. I don't get to see her have babies. She had all these hopes and dreams, but because it got so embedded in her head, she thought that there was no way out, and even just with my grief, I don't know how it reads my algorithm of that, but all I have is grief, 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 Frenchies, because I own Frenchies, grief, 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 suicide, suicide, suicide. But I don't look up suicide, but somehow it knows that I lost my daughter to suicide, And it's not me following anything. It's not me sharing anything. I mean, yeah, I did post after, I think a few months of her dying, I lost my daughter, and it just picked up on that. But it was that sad reel of her watching those suicides. And if she would have had some protection or some verification, or if I would have had some notification, and it's crazy, she had gotten in trouble at school and I took her phone away, and she had a phone where she was only able to use Wi-Fi on it, and she was still able to look up that on TikTok. So, thank you.
And I'm likewise very sorry for your loss, and I commend you for having the bravery and the resilience to be here today. I don't know how you get up in the morning, let alone come all the way into this building to testify in front of us. So I very much appreciate you being here and sharing your story with us. I do have a few more questions, but if you want to go to someone else and come back to me, please.
We are going to make sure all questions are answered in committee, so please know no matter how many questions you have, you'll all have an opportunity. I was curious about a follow-up actually to one of Senator Steinbeck's questions, so I did want to ask it just while Senator Steinbeck's still in the room before he heads up to his presentation. I know we had talked about, you had shared, Mr. Kruger, about other states and legislation that they had. And I did a lot of research as well, just knowing that this bill was coming. And I was curious how many of those involved age verification and how many were more maybe youth privacy acts in different states?
Mark Kruger, for the record. Great question, Senator. The age verification has about 5 states that have enacted it, for actual age verification. When you get into data privacy, it's pretty much all the states that have brought any kind of legislation in this have a data privacy protection provision in it. That's certainly one issue. However, most states that are bringing these, if the legislature, for example, in Virginia, they didn't include quite enough age verification, even though the original bill had it. And the governor signed the bill anyway, but specifically broke down a comment that said, in its current form, the bill does not go as far as it should, particularly by excluding minors over the age of 13 from protection, but the bill can be signed. So you can see that the states that are struggling with this want the age verification. And we believe the age verification is a critical component of this bill to bring strong legislation to protect these youth from all of the harms that you have heard today and the research you found.
And one follow-up to that, and then I'm going to move back to other committee members, and then I may have some more at the end, but how many of those, and again, I've just knowing this bill was coming, I started looking into some of this. How many of those states are in litigation over some of those particular age verification laws right now?
So, Mark Kruger for the record, great question. It appears from our research that about 9 states are in litigation. However, there has been 2 critical wins, particularly in Arkansas recently, where the injunction was lifted. And then one other state, which the injunction was also lifted as well.
Aaron Ford for the record. Just let me chime in here and say as well, we've done our homework. We have looked at all of these states, as you can tell from Mr. Kruger having the details of what's happening all across the nation, and we've tried to compile a bill that's going to withstand constitutional scrutiny on the First Amendment side of things, that's going to withstand litigation on age verification. Let me be clear. I'm under no illusion that if this bill were to get passed and signed, somebody's going to sue over it. But it's my office that's going to defend it. Just 2 days ago, we obtained favorable rulings from the Nevada Supreme Court against 3 social media programs that are trying to escape our jurisdiction right now as we attempt to hold them accountable for the negative impacts they're having on the mental health of our youth. Rest assured that if you were to support this bill, I'm confident in its constitutionality and in its lawfulness, and I will defend it to the fullest of my office's ability.
Before we go back to Senator Scheibel, and we will go back to you, Senator, did anyone else have, okay, we're going to go to Senator Lang, then Senator Daly.
I'm curious, it appears that it's the algorithms within the platforms that is a significant problem. And so why wouldn't you go after the social media companies instead of instituting, and in some respects, I feel like parental rights, and I know kids that are on social media. They're on my Facebook that aren't the age you're supposed to be on there. And so the platform doesn't pick up the fact that they give the wrong age, so they can be on those platforms. But why don't we go after the companies for the algorithms? Because I know, like, I can go on there and maybe I go on the internet and I'm looking to buy something, a bedspread, let's say, and then all of a sudden my Facebook populates with different companies that are selling bedspreads. So I feel like it's the company that is the problem, and it feeds into the other issues that you're talking about.
Senator Lang, Aaron Ford for the record. I'm going to make a prefatory remark and then offer Mark the ability to chime in as well. We're doing both. I just indicated that we, yesterday, 2 days ago, obtained a favorable ruling from the Nevada Supreme Court. We sued these several social media companies over a year ago. They have been trying to escape our jurisdiction for that entire time. And we are retaining them in this court, and we are going to be pursuing discovery to hold them accountable for the algorithmic approaches they have taken to negatively impact the mental health of our youth. We will hold them accountable in the litigation side of things. But this is a parallel effort that we're taking on the legislative side of things as well, to ensure that on a going forward basis, we have guardrails in place to protect our youth from predators, as I've indicated. You've heard Mr. King talk about the ways in which these predators are infiltrating these platforms, and we are working to try to ensure that we can strengthen laws to protect them in that regard. The mental health components, you've heard from Ms. Farris already about the impacts that this doom scrolling and this automatic video play. These are things that we think are negatively affecting the mental health of our youth and leading to grave consequences, right? And so at the end of the day, we will continue to scour the nation for opportunities to improve the mental health of our children and protect them from predators. We actually asked for a waiver on this bill to try to work with the industry to find ways in which to compile a bill that would accomplish the goals that I have just laid out. Unfortunately, we could not come to an agreement on the best way forward in that regard, and we are presenting our best effort, one that we think, again, is going to withstand constitutional scrutiny, that I am willing to defend with every aspect of the office that we have available, but it is not to the exclusion of holding particular social media companies accountable. We are doing that as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions, and I know we've spent some time, and I don't know that you have the answers to any of this stuff. From what I understand, when Florida passed this with the 13 age restriction, within a month, virtually everybody found a way around it. So I'm not sure how good the age verification was. Not saying that we shouldn't try some things, but virtually everybody finds a way around it. Any comments on that?
Thank you, Aaron Ford, for the record. Mr. Daly, look, I will say this. There's not a law in the books in this state that I don't believe people find a way to get around. That does not mean we don't take an effort to protect the residents of our state. People run red lights all the time. And by the way, we didn't need red lights, we didn't need traffic signals until the car came around. Now we are trying to catch up with technology on the social media context and bringing forward new legislation that addresses new technology. And so at the end of the day, it's not going to be an end-all, be-all. This is not going to eradicate the problem, but it will certainly assist in protecting the mental health of our youth. It will certainly assist our law enforcement in ensuring that predators are being held accountable and that we can protect youth from predators at least a little better than we are able to right now.
And I agree that it doesn't mean we shouldn't try. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how do we build the better mousetrap. So related to that, separate question is we're going through all this age verification questioning, and right now we have the parental what do you call it? Permission, right? The parental permission to be on there. How are we safeguarding and making sure that it's the parent or the legal guardian? How is that verification being done? You'd have somebody else do on that. I know there's no way for you to prevent someone who got permission from their parent from at least letting them look at their platform. But I know you have the whole issue with streaming services and sharing the code, and somebody's given them access. I think Senator Scheibel mentioned that you can get into other people's feeds and various things. Personally, me, I don't know how to do any of it. So that's well and good. I understand people can, but what are we doing on the parent side to make sure that verification is just as robust as the age verification?
Mark Kruger for the record. Great question, Senator. That's the age verification component of it, where they have to collect the data to ensure that there's a 95% accuracy that child or the consent of the adult for that child is actually legitimately that child's parent or guardian. So it's built into the provisions of the legislation.
So what type of information are they looking at or looking for?
Generally speaking, Senator Mark Kruger for the record, it can be, driver's license, real ID, some kind of information for the parent, and then whether or not they use some other information such as, I would imagine, like birth certificates, things like that. The key here is that there's a protection in the bill so that data that's collected to verify must be kept segregated and separated from all other data and can only be retained for certain purposes, like to prove that they did the age verification, but otherwise must be destroyed after they've done it.
Understood. And I just, hopefully there's some follow-up, quarterly or something that says, hey, your kid's got this account, you still want them to have it. I don't know. Because I think people are going to find ways around that. Now, not that we won't keep then trying to tighten the rope and come back and close loopholes, et cetera. So last question I have, and it's a broad category we're doing here, but I do have a specific thing in your amendment, a curiosity question. I don't know if you can fix it or not. And it's in Section 10, subsection 3C, where you're talking about the exclusion or nearly exclusive for educational materials in Nevada schools as approved by school districts. And then you have or charter school in the state. And to me, the equivalent for charter schools would be the sponsoring authority, whether it is the school district or the state public charter school authority, rather than an individual school. Now, I don't want to cause any problems. That may cause a fiscal note from the State Public Charter School Authority, but my understanding is they're completely funded from the fees they get, so it shouldn't be a budget issue if you can head that off. But to me, it should be that somebody higher up with more resources than a governing board of a charter school, just a technicality.
Aaron Ford, for the record, understood. Thank you. We'll take a look at that.
All right, I'm going to hand it back over to Senator Scheibel.
I'm sorry. I have so many questions about this bill. So I'll kind of work backwards from the one that Senator Daley just kind of inspired, which is we're talking, all about the ways that we are trying to protect kids online, but I'm a little bit concerned now about how this is going to affect adults, because the inverse is that now we're all going to have to prove that we're over 18 to get access to regular social media accounts, right?
Mark Kruger for the record. That's correct, Senator.
Aaron Ford, but you already have to do that. You already have to attest that you, as an adult, are already over 18. What we're requiring now is that children themselves are going to be the ones who we have to ensure that children are age appropriate. So, I mean, it's not a new burden on you to prove that you're 18. You've already done that by being on every social media account that you have.
Right. I checked a box attesting that I'm 18 or older. And so either it's going to be that simple for 13-year-olds to check the box that they're 18 or older and get access to the full accounts, or it's going to be equally difficult for everybody. And am I going to have to upload my birth certificate to get a Facebook account now?
Mark Kruger for the record. Senator, it should be fairly simple for anybody with a standard identification. If you have a real ID, for example, you'd be able to show a picture of that. And this is not unheard of and not outside the realm of it. There are many, many companies who do require, we need to verify your identification quickly before we allow you to proceed forward, usually in the areas of financial. But there's a lot of examples out there where they do it. And so, yeah, you may have to take a picture quickly, a photo of your driver's license or identification card, have that verified, and then the company will destroy that photo. But for the children, they may not have, if you want to get a child on that's 15 or 14, they may not yet have a state-issued identification card. So you may have to use some other form of identification for that children, and presumably use your own piece of identification to prove that you are a parent or guardian of that child, which should be easy to do if you are a parent.
Okay, so if I have, I'm not sure how easy it would be. How does the social media or the digital platform know who the parents are of a child?
Marker for the record. Well, that's part of the process of age verification that they would have to go through. That's spelled out in the legislation. You'd have to be able to say as a parent, yes, I want to give consent to have my child. This is my child. However that verification is done, we left it open to the digital platforms to have a broad type of use of different technologies in order to do that. And once they do it, then they can give consent for your child to get on to the platform. And I would bring up also one more other point. I mean, this isn't new. This is what other states are now requiring. For example, in Arkansas, there's going to be a requirement that this is done pretty much the same way as what's in our legislation.
There is or there is going to be?
There is now because it was enjoined, but the Arkansas enjoinment got struck down on April 1st, 2025. And the other state was Mississippi. The preliminary injunction, again, was struck down. So these legislation in these particular states are moving forward in this same manner.
Aaron Ford for the record. Senator Scheibel, I will tell you, I heard the woe is me's from the social media companies about the difficulties they would have in implementing a plan and policy and a practice or using technology. I was not persuaded. These are technology companies who have the ability and the wherewithal to figure out a way to accomplish the goals that are set forth in this legislation. How do I know that? Because, again, Mississippi, Arkansas, other states are requiring it as well, and they are withstanding scrutiny. To be sure, it's not, spelled out specifically and directly, and that's by design in our legislation telling them how to do it. We want to leave it up to them to figure out how to comply with the bill. And we have, provisions in there that allow them to have safe harbor if things go awry. But at the end of the day, it is incumbent upon these platforms that are perpetuating, that are helping to perpetuate predation on their apps and suicidal ideations and mental health issues against these youth to help us figure out a way to get it done. Again, I gave them an opportunity to do that over the course of the last few months. We could not come to an agreement on what terminology that would look like, and so we're left to our devices to ascertain the best way to move forward. And we think that this is a great compromise based on everything that we've seen out there relative to what's been challenged. We've avoided those pitfalls to what's succeeded and what has withstood scrutiny. We've included those provisions in our bill. I appreciate the questions, and we may not be able to answer every single one of them to great satisfaction, but at the end of the day, I think, again, moving the ball forward relative to trying to protect our youth is a fight that we are willing to undertake. Once this passes, if it passes, and if it gets signed, we'll see them in court.
So you mentioned that this was a compromise. Who proposed the amendment?
Mark Kruger for the record. The amendments made up of compromises with certain groups. For example, the school districts and through the State Department of Education approached us about the educational exclusion so that they could use approved platforms within the school that are actually designed to be educational in nature and not have the access. They're restricted by the school district. So that was one, for example. Certainly, we made some compromises with gaming, for example, and because they're licensed, as I explained earlier. And then there were some other different stakeholders that approached us regarding electronic mail, cloud storage, things like that. So it's a variety of trying to accommodate several stakeholders.
And Aaron Ford for the record, the most recent change we're going to do relative to access to healthcare and patient communications comes directly from a communication we had with Silver State Equity, is that what it's called? Dealing with LGBT, Silver State Equality, to deal with concerns they had relative to the impact on LGBTQ youth and their ability to have this. So we have corresponded with a lot of different groups, as I've always done from days back in the Senate, to try to find ways to accommodate and incorporate concerns. And so this is an amalgamation of a lot of communication and conversation. We drafted the amendment, but the communication was taking place relative to any interest group who was willing to bring us in good faith an amendment that we could consider and offer and utilize.
I'm sorry, Chair. I still have a few more questions. And I'm glad that you brought up the schools again, because as I was listening to your conversation with my colleague, it seems like this is also pretty it's a pretty narrow exception for educational platforms that are approved by the school district or charter school in this state. And so what about school districts in Arizona or Utah, our very close neighbors? Our kids who are coming to visit grandma and grandpa in Mesquite not going to be able to access their school website while they're, home for the holidays?
Mark Kruger for the record. In our drafting of this act and the amendments, we wanted to make sure that we were cognizant of certain challenges to the act, and we want to make sure that we don't invoke any commerce clause provisions and make sure that everything is concentric to this state. And that's why the act itself absolutely says this only applies to conduct that occurs in this state.
Aaron Ford, but to answer your question, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Here's what I do know. When I was recently visiting another state, geolocation absolutely cuts off the ability. You could be in Washington, D.C. and Virginia, and you may not be able to get access to an app because of some laws that are there. So it's a possibility. Is it far and few between? Very likely. Are we able to legislate to every single example that may be impacted? We can't. All that we can do is offer the best product that we can right now, and then come back, as Senator Daley said, earlier, and try to tweak around the edges once we find new opportunities to address concerns as they arise.
Okay. I want to move on / back to the infinite scrolling and the algorithms because, I also, as I've stated, utilize social media. My algorithm gets taken over every so often by one search, one new account that I follow, and it can be incredibly annoying. So I'm wondering, why not require the social media platforms to simply offer, the digital platforms to offer 2 different accounts, one that takes your data and feeds you what they want to feed you, one, like the one that you're proposing for kids, that is not allowed to take your data and manipulate your algorithm, and then allow adults to also opt into this algorithm-free social media.
Mark Kruger for the record. If I understand your question correctly, I do not believe that would be a prohibition within our legislation. I think that's a great idea. In fact, that a solution that companies could use, these digital platforms could do, is create 2 separate platforms. Certainly it would work.
Okay. I have 2 more questions. I'm just kind of curious conceptually how we think that all of these restrictions on the digital platforms are going to be effective when kids can still access mom or dad's iPad with no parental controls, or even with parental controls, and do a Google search.
Mark Kruger for the record, and General Ford may have something else to add too, but that's what it comes back down to, parental consent. And if parents want to consent and allow them to use their account, we can't control that. We can only control where we're trying to ensure that parents that want to be responsible and don't want to have these kids on there without their knowledge and without their consent have a restriction in place to prohibit that.
And I think maybe that's sort of my underlying question about the bill, which is, why make all of this mandatory? Why say that a social media platform will be responsible for having a 14-year-old on the platform utilizing an adult account, instead of making it permissive and saying that the social media platform, or the digital platform must provide these options, must make it possible for a parent to restrict these things, must make it possible to eliminate notifications between midnight and 6 a.m., but still leave the decision up to the parent whether they opt their kid into the full restrictions, some of the restrictions, or none of the restrictions.
Well, Aaron Ford for the record. I think I understand the entirety of your question and would absolutely be open to, if you have language or someone else you want to help present that as a consideration, we could do that. But I want to go back to your very first question. The reason why I'm doing this is the testimony you've heard today. I'm seeing it happen on a daily basis. My investigators are trying to stop predators. We're trying to protect our youth, period, point blank. And that's the instruction that I gave to the industry groups. I says, here are my 2 points. Stop predation, and let's work on mental health issues. And we could not, for some reason, could not get it done as a full table of interested entities. And so, again, we are left to our own devices. We've done the very best job that we can do to protect our youth from predators and to protect their mental health. So what you've heard Mr. King say, that's why I think it's important and it's an imperative to put the onus upon these platforms. And what you've heard this parent next to me say, her story is, that's the reason why we think it's so important to continue to press this forward. That said, I think I understood your question to offer a nuance whereby a parent could authorize a child to have complete full access to whatever the social media platform offers. I mean, look, I don't know if that's a problem at all. I mean, if that's a provision to add, so be it. I'm not certain that we contemplated that as an option, but it's something we could think about. I'm sorry. Yes,
Investigator King for the record.
Okay, hold on one second, Mr. King. Ms. Farris wants to testify real quickly.
Bethany Ferris. Another thing, too, I just wanted to say, I know that I was a single mom, so I did work a lot. I didn't have a husband at home to monitor my children and what they were on the phone for. So it would have been really nice to be able to have a notification like, hey, your child is on this platform. Hey, your child is watching this. Hey, that would have been nice to have that in place. So I think with a 2-person household, with someone able to be like, hey, get off that. So I think in perspective, not every parent has that option too. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. King, if that's okay. Mr. King.
Thank you, AG. Investigator Donchi King for the record. So at the AG's office, we take a 2-prong approach. One prong is community engagement. The other prong is from the investigative side. On the community engagement side, we go into different communities and localities and we speak about the grooming, recruitment, and exploitation aspects that we're seeing on these social media platforms. So not only are the parents shocked, the parents want answers as to how and why, if we can stop these things. We've seen in some of our town forums where parents have asked us, was there age verification or some type of system in place? I just wanted to bring that to your attention because parents don't understand the length that the predators go to get their children. And I wanted to highlight, some of the things that we're doing on our end. And thank you guys for allowing me to speak on this topic.
Okay, these are my last 2 questions. It's kind of a question and a concern. It seems like, I know we all agree that we don't want children to be preyed upon in the state of Nevada or anywhere else. And we can absolutely agree that online predation is a growing problem and we don't want to see kids being manipulated and influenced by adults who have bad intentions. And so it seems like we're focusing so much on getting the kids off of the digital media platforms. What about getting the predators off the platforms?
Aaron Ford, for the record, it goes back to what I said earlier. This is not a exclusive activity. We are prosecuting predators and looking for ways to, their orders sometimes, when they get charged and when they get convicted, their orders oftentimes do prevent them from doing exactly what you've just said. So it's a multi-pronged approach we're taking here, Senator. This is to protect the kids, but we are absolutely trying to keep predators off these platforms as well.
And last thing, this is my concern, is that I think in general, the SB 63, if passed, sets up this expectation and responsibility that the social media platforms are responsible for keeping kids who are under the age of 18 off of the platform, at least in ways that they're able to interact with other people. And so I'm concerned that we are building in a defense for predators who you do prosecute to say that I did not know this person was under 18. I had every reason to believe they were over 18. It is not my fault that I sent these explicit images to a 12-year-old because the platform was supposed to ensure that everybody I communicated with was over the age of 18.
Aaron Ford, for the record, a couple of responses to that. First of which, the law remains, your ignorance is no excuse to predating on someone who is under 18. And if our prosecutions lead to that, we will continue to prosecute under those same laws. I hear what you're saying, and I also would beg to differ relative to what this SB 63 is setting up. It is requiring these platforms to be more responsible with the ways in which they are allowing individuals to interact on these platforms, but the onus remains on the parent nonetheless. The parent is the one who's going to be able to say yes, to your point, Senator Scheibel, give them full access. Let predators get access to them, right? Or, no, let's back off of this, and I want them to not get notifications between midnight and 6 a.m. when they should be asleep. They shouldn't get notifications during school hours when they should be studying. They should not be getting doom scrolls that continue to remind them about suicide and problems that they're having. These are still parental responsibilities that are being supported by platforms that also have a responsibility to ensure that the products that they're putting into the stream of commerce don't negatively impact Nevadans. It's my job as Attorney General to protect all of Nevada, and I do that with youth especially because they are so vulnerable. And at the end of the day, again, I will continue to try to hold these individuals accountable, but also legislate ways in which we can help parents do their jobs as well.
And I would just like to say that I do not question your commitment to the people of Nevada and your steadfast commitment to protecting them. And I defy anybody who does, because you have been a champion for people across the state in your years, both here in the Senate and as AG. And I do appreciate that.
And I certainly second Senator Scheibel's comments. We always enjoy having you in here, and we always appreciate the work that you do, and we thank you. I think, did you have one more question? And then I don't know if Senator Flores had questions.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And follow up on the last little piece of discussion that we had is, I think you're right, some of this falls to the parent, but there's no way we're going to be able to legislate being a good parent or morality or several other things on that side. So along that side, I see this more as, yes, the parents have a role and they have some responsibility not to do certain things. And I know there pushes over when the parents let their kids do certain things. They have potential liability if they start a fire or do some of those things. But in this, I think there needs to be some language that says the fact that a person or a parent gave parental consent, right, wrong, or indifferent, they still made that decision, that none of that goes back on them. There's no defense from the platform who's we're trying to reel this in, or no defense by any predator that can go back to the parent and say, well, the parent gave permission, so I'm off the hook. I think there needs to be something there that just because a parent gave consent, right, wrong, or indifferent was their judgment, that doesn't make them responsible or liable for somebody predating on a kid or doing some of these other things. I would just hate to see that get used as offense, as my colleague was just mentioning on that. So I think it's a different thing to say I'm ignorant to the law and the platform said they were okay, so that's my defense, but that's on the platform. I don't think it should ever be able to go back to the parental consent part.
Thank you, Senator Mark Kruger, for the record. And I think your point is valid. When you're talking about the predation part of it, certainly there's that strict liability part of that, and it will be on the actual predator. When you're talking about the other stuff, there is a balance, right? That we have to help these platforms who want to do the right thing, want to follow the law, do a age verification that's 95% within accuracy, and reasonably rely on, the parents in good faith, the parents giving them accurate information. If the parents are doctoring it up or somebody's doctoring it up and they don't have a way to verify that that's a doctored up type of identification or something that they reasonably relied on in good faith, then we have to let the companies who are trying to do the right job have some relief in that they're not responsible then that these children are on there. Does that abrogate the company from responsibility for other acts that occur on that platform? Not necessarily, no, under the law. But it certainly helps give them a little bit of safe harbor for doing the right thing.
And I understand good faith and all that kind of stuff, and somebody gave them false information, and they took the due diligence to verify it the best they could, but it was still wrong. I'm just saying, so a parent did give the access, the full access, just say. I don't want anyone to go back and say, well, the parent didn't take responsibility, so why is it not on me? I'm just saying I didn't want a parent who maybe said, hey, I trust my kid, or I think I know my kid, whatever. They've always been good before, and then something happens and say, well, none of this would have happened if you didn't grant permission. That's where I'm trying to get to, because that would be wrong.
Mark Kruger, for the record, I understand that, and certainly this is not in the act itself in the legislation does not give any kind of safe harbor to a company to say, oh, it's not my fault, it's the parent's fault. We're not trying to create that type of environment at all. And so there would be certain, if there's negligent conduct, gross negligence, any kind of conduct out there, that certainly would be applicable for any kind of action in the future. But the law itself is not saying, oh, just because a parent allowed you on doesn't mean that then you can use that as an excuse to avoid all liability. And I think that's where you were getting at.
All right, Senator Flores has been upstairs in a presentation, so he's just returned.
Yeah, and if I bring up anything that has already been addressed, please just let me know, and I will go back and pay attention to those minutes. Please don't repeat yourself. That's not my intent, and I do apologize. I was presenting a bill. First of all, Attorney General Ford, always great to see you, and I really appreciate where you're coming from. I am now a new dad. My son is a year and 9 months, and I am not in that phase yet, but I'm going to hit it, and I'm obviously very concerned. So I want to approach the conversation through that lens, because I know we have to do something. At the same time, I'm curious to know, and I don't know in the conversations you've had with industry partners, how sophisticated are we becoming now to the point that we're close to a scenario where we can attack content more than focusing on the actual age verifications or these other kind of elements that the technology is getting sophisticated enough that we're getting better at weaving through certain things or catching, so that the industry is responsive to this and the private sector is addressing it preemptively or will be able to address it, versus having to put regs that we may eventually want to change or realize that maybe that's not the best way, because the private sector might be able to address that. That was the first question. And then I have a separate question going in a different angle, completely different lane.
Thank you for your question, Senator Flores. I want to be clear that we have purposefully avoided trying to attack content in this bill. Some of the lawsuits that we've talked about today that other states are undertaking is because it's, people are alleging that it's content, that it directed at content. We are not trying to direct content. So this is a content neutral bill that wouldn't speak to the sophistication of being able to hone in on particular content and have a platform respond in any kind of way or another.
And then, Madam Chair, and then now with the age verification, the scenarios where we have individuals who may not have a way to verify their identification, either because they're in an unfortunate scenario where they're from house to house. Unfortunately, we see that. That is not the rule, but we have scenarios like that. How do we see this kind of playing out for those individuals? And then I also had an opportunity to read a little bit through some of the concerns that were raised by a letter sent in by Mr. Andre Wade, who I know is in the room. And I know there was concerns raised specifically as to some of these platforms being utilized on the other side as a safe harbor for individuals, and that we want to be able to be as sensitive to protect the identity of that individual, because that may be the only place they're getting the conversations, right? And I was curious to know if you had any feedback on that.
Thank you. And I'm gonna answer that question. Let me qualify my last answer. To be sure, we've talked about the dangerous types of content that is on these platforms, whether it's suicidal, rotations, things of that sort. But the approach we're taking here is to put in logistical and operational restrictions on how stuff is received. So no doom scrolling, and that doesn't matter whether it's suicidal ideation or Frenchies, as she's indicated, right? So I want to be clear about that we do recognize that certain content is more harmful than other, but we're not focusing on content per se. We're focusing on the ways in which the time, place, manner of the content as it's being received, and we're allowed to do that as a state. So I want to qualify that. And to your second question, it's not lost on me that there are vulnerable communities who rely upon these apps for support. It was part of my opening testimony. And we are trying to walk the line to protect their ability to get access to those needs. One of those things that we were able to do was, you mentioned Mr. Wade, he actually was the reason, the impetus behind the proposed amendment allowing for the exclusion of nearly exclusive purposes of facilitating communication between a provider of health care and a patient, so long as the provider is providing or hosting the product, good, or services, right, to allow the mental health counseling to take place. I can't sit here and say that we have a complete response to the concerns of the LGBTQ community on this, but I will say this: they're also highly predated upon. They're also subjected to the concerns that I've raised here. Mr. King could probably give you examples of members of the LGBTQ plus community who are being targeted on these platforms. So while on the one hand, it's not perfect, on the other hand, it is certainly a move forward in the arena of trying to, number one, deal with predation, and then number two, deal with mental health issues by allowing an exception that deals with allowing to communicate with health clinics and things of that sort that work in that arena.
I appreciate that. And thank you, Madam Chair, for the indulgence.
Okay. Do we have any final questions? Okay, not seeing any. We thank you so much for the presentation. Ms. Ferris, we especially thank you for coming here and sharing your daughter's story with us. And Attorney General, again, always good to see you here. And Mr. Kruger, we enjoy seeing you as well. You've been in Commerce and Labor a lot. So with that, we'll have you all take a step back from the table, and we are going to keep to those 30-minute limits. So 30 minutes with a 2-minute limit per person in testimony and support, and then testimony in opposition, and then testimony in neutral, though I'm not certain how many will have a neutral on this bill. With that said, it is now 10:02, and we are going to start the clock and welcome those that would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 63 in our physical locations. So whether you are in Carson City or Las Vegas, you're welcome up to the tables. And I'm not seeing, oh, we are in Las Vegas. We're going to welcome these two young ones up to the tables, and we're happy to have you. Go ahead, turn on the microphone, state and spell your name when you're ready. And thank you for being here.
Good morning, Chair Pazina and members of the committee. My name is Eduardo Guillen, EduardoGuillen. I wish I could be here today with you guys because this issue matters to me a lot. And we've gone to Carson City 3 times so far to speak about problems in East Las Vegas, and social media is one of them. I have personally met with Attorney General Ford to speak about gun violence here in our community. Gun violence is a huge problem here in the East Side, and social media helps promote weapons to youth. People buy and sell guns on apps like Instagram and Telegram with no rules or consequences. Then an argument starts between people, and social media makes it worse. An example of gun violence here was a young teen who was shot after walking home from a party last fall. This teenager was a student from our school who had a huge heart for every one of his friends and family. Not only did social media contribute to the hate that put him at risk and the gun that took his life, but after he was gone, you could find insults and memes of him on the pavement across Instagram and TikTok. This loss has affected our whole community, but now we're here to fight for a change. Our current laws allow all of these things to happen. Digital platforms can do better. We can do better. What is happening right now is wrong, and you can do something about it today. I hope that you support SB 63 and advance this bill. Thank you for your time and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and speak with us today. We really appreciate you having you here, and thank you. And when you're ready, we'll have our next person go ahead and turn on the microphone and state and spell your name for the record.
Good morning, Chair Pazina and members of the committee. My name is Brian Godoy, Bryangodoy. I am here today once again speaking to you in support of SB 63 to help protect kids online. You heard last month from my peers and I going to high schools in East Las Vegas. We came here on our spring break because we wanted to help. We wanted your help to protect our community. When we were here, we got the opportunity to meet Attorney General Ford. He really agreed with us about all the hatred and dangerous things spread through social media. We were able to explain to his staff how digital platforms actively promote and sell drugs in our community, how these platforms encourage and spread conflicts between kids until they become violent, and how adults do not even know about this sometimes. On Instagram, you can easily get your hands on dispos and vapes, weapons, etc. It's astonishing how easily you can get your hands on this because Instagram and other platforms promote, and benefit from the sales happening in plain sight. As teens, we keep on losing people that we care about, such as a friend of mine who was in the hospital critically due to the drugs, or teens who end up in a bad place after they start with those drugs. There is a wall at our school of my classmates who have passed away, and more than a half of them are connected to things you could find on Instagram. It may not be so simple, and I know you will have powerful companies fighting you on this. But I hope you see that me and my friends who have been talking to you all were powerful and important too. With your help and the help of our community, we can turn things around. I insist you to support and help us pass SB 63. Thank you for your time and for all you do for our state.
Thank you both so much, and the future is bright. We enjoy hearing from you, and thank you again. And with that, we will come to Carson City.
Good morning, Christy McGill from the Nevada Department of Education, specifically here representing the Office of Safe and Respectful Learning. For the last 8 years, we have run Safe Voice, and we are in support with the proactive intent of this bill. We have seen firsthand some of the damage that cyberbullying and these kinds of things have happened in our student population. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have anyone else who'd like to testify in support of Senate Bill 63? Not seeing anyone in our physical locations, we are going to move to the phone lines broadcast. Do you have anyone online who'd like to testify in support of SB 63?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 63, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller, you are unmuted. Please continue.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Williams, Williams. I'm calling today in full support of SB 63 and urging the committee to support this bill as well. My daughter is in kindergarten, and even at the elementary level, children are exposed to behaviors, trends, and even sometimes dangers that come from digital platforms. Our youth are so easily influenced, and as a parent, I fully support having another safeguard in place, in addition to my parental guidance, to protect our children from predators and predatory practices. SB 63 is an important step towards creating accountability for social media companies and ensuring more protection for Nevada families. Thank you.
Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much. We're going to come back to Carson City, and welcome.
Hello, my name is Olivia, and I am Vicky's aunt. I don't have social media. I agree and have personal reasons, but this is a line of defense for our children. And by having that safeguard and guardrails, we as a community are taking that step. And you're right. someone's always going to find a way around it, past it. But having that defense and having that for our children, our nephews, our nieces, grandsons, whoever it might be, it's very important, and I totally support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate your testimony. Do we have anyone else in our physical locations who'd like to testify in support of Senate Bill 63? I don't see anyone, and knowing that our phone lines were clear, we are going to now move to testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 63, and we'll start in our physical location, starting in Carson City. Please approach the table when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair Pazina, Vice Chair Daly. My name is Kayla Maese, Kaylahmaese, Civil Rights Analyst with the ACLU of Nevada. The ACLU of Nevada does oppose SB 63. This bill already mirrors concerning laws that we already have, like COSA, the Kids Online Safety Act, which imposes broad age restrictions that risk violating young people's First Amendment rights. It also incentivizes excessive data collection. We're now going to be talking about data collection with minors, which is a much bigger concern. And it's a privacy concern for all users. The ACLU of Nevada is always concerned with data collection. Who holds this data? Where is this data stored? How is it deleted? And when is it deleted? We did speak with the Attorney General's office prior to session, knowing that this bill was coming forward, and we are more than happy to still work with them after the fact to reach a consensus. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chair Pazina and members of the committee. My name is Andre Wade, ANDREWADE, and I'm the State Director for Service Data Quality. We are in opposition to some of the provisions of this bill, as already outlined. We also have concerns around the age verification and the data collection and storage around that, and also around the parental consent. Unfortunately, for a lot of folks in our community, and young people included, they don't have a caring parent or guardian that they can rely on that will give them parental consent to access these important platforms for them when they're in seeking community online. We also have been in touch with the Attorney General's office, and we are happy that they have listened to some of our concerns around the end-to-end user feature that would prevent, like a Trevor Project, as an example, and organization that provides suicide prevention support. If they have a chat function on their website, then the initial language of the bill would prohibit that function from working. And so we are hoping that the Attorney General's office will continue to have conversations with us so they can understand our concerns. We're talking to my colleagues about this across the nation and this issue. We're just looking for ways in the way the bill is written to be able to make any modifications to age verification and parental consent, so we would be more okay with the bill. But right now, we're in opposition to some of those provisions. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. And members of the committee. For the record, Paul Maratko with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is opposed to Senate Bill 63 as introduced, along with a proposed amendment that has been posted to Nellis. While the Chamber agrees with the intent of protecting minors, of course, it does not agree with the approach of Senate Bill 63. The Chamber believes that the proposed amendment does not address, or the introduced bill does not address the majority of concerns that have been brought forward to the Attorney General's office from the business community, but we do appreciate the meetings he's had with the business community. The fundamental concern by the Chamber is that this bill does not effectively address the concerns of parents about their children accessing certain content on social media platforms or the internet. Instead, the Chamber believes that this bill creates a system of regulations and processes that are complex, burdensome, intrusive, and impractical for both social media platforms and parents as relates to parental consent and the steps required for age verification. This bill, as introduced, would require sensitive personal information to be submitted before any Nevadan can access their account, which can open up the individual and the business to identity theft, which can happen even with the most sophisticated protections put in place by the business. As you know, and you will hear from industry experts, age verification is an ongoing and complex challenge that will only be exacerbated by this bill in its current form. The reality is this bill conflicts with best practices when it comes to the amount of personal data that should be collected and stored, and something of concern to the Chamber. Regarding the amendments, for example, we appreciate that it does address some concerns, but not all concerns, as you will hear shortly. In closing, the Chamber believes Senate Bill 63 will create an extensive list of constitutional issues and could result in potential litigation and confusion for Nevada's families. Unfortunately, Senate Bill 63, while well-intentioned, is not the solution, and we urge this committee not to support this legislation today. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Edith Duarte for the record, DUARTE, proudly with Western Public Affairs today representing TechNet. TechNet is the National Network Technology Association for Technology Companies. Members include eBay, Amazon, StubHub, Souks, Meta, Grubhub, among many others. We must respectfully oppose SB 63 today, which would require age verification and parental consent mandates on digital platforms. It raises serious privacy, operational, and constitutional concerns. First, it would require all social media platforms and digital platforms to undergo age verification with 95% accuracy, effectively forcing residents to submit sensitive personal information like government-issued IDs just to access or to maintain an account. This conflicts with widely accepted data minimization standards in the industry and creates risks of identity theft and privacy breaches. Second, the bill would mandate minors to obtain verified parental consent, requiring platforms to go far beyond a basic verification. This would involve intrusive procedures to validate parental relationships and rights, procedures that are not only vague but could violate privacy of families while creating significant compliance uncertainty. Finally, and I think we talked about this a lot today, the constitutional concerns must also be considered. Similar laws in Arkansas and in Ohio and in California have all been challenged. I do have the opinion for the March 31st opinion from Judge Timothy L. Brooks from Arkansas. And there is the Age Verification Act 689 in Arkansas, which was struck down. I certainly circulate that and will share that with the committee. I also want to thank the Attorney General and his staff for holding a working group meeting with industry.
We are at 2 minutes, and we thank you so much. But do turn in the rest of your comments to our committee secretary so we can make sure they're on the record.
Of course.
And yes, we know that the Attorney General had originally received the exemption in order to have more stakeholder discussions, and we thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of the Reno-Sparks Chamber of Commerce. First, I want to, commend Attorney General Ford's office. They do a tremendous job in getting the predators that they can identify, get them caught and prosecuted as they should. Unfortunately, with Senate Bill 63, our members, we remain opposed, mostly due to the questions that you have provided, the testimony that was brought forward by my other colleagues, and the written testimony in opposition that you can find on Nellis. And with that, Madam Chair, the Reno-Sparks Chamber remains opposed to Senate Bill 63. Thank you.
Chair Pazina and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Aidan Downey. I'm here on behalf of the Computer and Communications Industry Association, or CCIA, in respectful opposition to Senate Bill 63. We share the goals of protecting children online and want to continue to work with the Nevada Legislature to achieve this goal, but Senate Bill 63 presents serious concerns. Federal courts have consistently prohibited similar laws requiring age verification and parental consent, finding they violate the First Amendment. These laws burden lawful speech, reduce access to critical resources, and introduce vague compliance standards that can lead to arbitrary enforcement. Moreover, age verification technologies are not only reliable, they raise significant privacy risks, especially when they require collection of sensitive data like biometrics or government IDs. These mandates could deter users, threaten small business viability, and ironically, expose children to greater privacy harms. Additionally, age verification requirements would impose significant costs on digital services, particularly for small and mid-sized businesses. Implementing these systems often requires third-party vendors, biometric scanning, or government ID collection. These methods are expensive, intrusive, and often inaccurate. Large platforms may absorb these costs, but smaller competitors may be forced out of the market entirely, reducing consumer choice and weakening the innovation in the tech sector. Nevada has proven itself as an amazing environment for innovation, and this bill would harm that reputation for digital services wishing to do business here. If passed, Senate Bill 63 may unintentionally encourage platforms to block all minors rather than list legal consequences, denying teens access to educational and supportive communities online. Instead of legislation likely to be overturned in court, we urge collaboration with industry to build on tools that already empower families to make the best decisions for their children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Not seeing anyone else here in Carson City or coming to the table in Las Vegas, we will now head to the phone lines. Broadcast, is there anyone on the phone lines who'd like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 63?
If you would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 63, please press star 9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits of 186, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please continue.
Good morning, Chair Pazina, Vice Chair Daly, and members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Hanley. I'm the head of safety policy for North America at Meta and a mom of 2 young children. We strongly agree with the goal of SB 63 to make online experiences safer for teens, but this bill fails to do that. Instead, it overburdens parents, undermines existing safety efforts, and is likely to be found unconstitutional, which is why we urge the committee to oppose SB 63. At Meta, we want to support parents so they feel empowered when it comes to their teens' online experiences. We launched Instagram's teen accounts, which was specifically designed for young people. It defaults teens into private accounts, our strictest messaging and content restrictions, has a 60-minute daily limit encouraging teens to leave the app, has sleep mode to mute notifications at night, and provides additional supervision tools that allow parents to decide when and for how long their teens can use Instagram. Teens under 18 are defaulted into teen accounts, and teens under 16 require a parent's permission to change any of those settings. SB 63 would impact our ability to provide personalized experiences to teens, which is an important aspect to keeping them safe online. Personalization helps teens find like-minded interests, organizations, and discover and connect with new communities. And it also helps us protect teens by filtering out age-inappropriate content, contacts, and recommendations, which would have an inverse impact on teen safety if removed. If your concern is that personalized content or certain design features lead to teens spending too much time online, the solution lies in time management tools, like our previously mentioned built-in protections and supervision tools. Bills around the country selectively implementing app-by-app age verification and parental consent on only a subset of the many websites and apps available on the internet have been blocked by courts. Teens use an estimated 40 apps per week, which means SB 63 would overwhelm parents, forcing them to provide personal information to each of the many apps their teens use one by one. The easiest, most accurate, and most privacy-protective solution for age assurance and parental consent online is to require app stores to verify ages and get a parent's approval anytime their teen under 16 wants to download an app. We've submitted a coalition letter with Snap and X, further explaining the need for App Store legislation. This has been introduced in 17 states, was recently signed into law in Utah, and introduced at the federal level in the House and Senate yesterday. By working together, we can create solutions that balance safety while also still providing teens with meaningful online experiences. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brian Wachter with the Retail Association of Nevada. I represent Nevada's retail community here, from national brands to small local shops that depend on digital platforms to connect with customers and promote family-oriented programs and stay competitive in an increasingly online economy. We appreciate that the initial steps in the amendment that takes to separate e-commerce from other social media platforms. We, however, disagree that the proposed age verification should apply to our online shops. We do require parental notification, but we can think of no identification that proves parental lineage. This gets more complicated as many children do not always share the same surname as their parent. Our online stores don't push user-generated content, and we feel it's a policy misstep to group our online storefronts in with social platforms. SB 63 will likely drive digital platforms to reduce services or raise costs in Nevada to avoid those legal risks, especially for tools used by small and rural businesses that can't afford bespoke compliance systems. RAND strongly urges you to protect Nevada consumers by voting no on SB 63. And if I could step away, ma'am, for a moment and kind of take my lobbyist hat on and put my parental hat on. I'm a father of 2 teenage boys. I too have buried a child, and so I know the curse of being able to fantasize about all of the milestones you're going to miss and mourn them at the same time. But as a parent, it's also my responsibility to make sure I'm teaching my children to be able to engage in a world. And there are plenty of tools available to us. What I think is more important is kind of the schizophrenic approach of government here. Instagram is something as a parent I chose to not allow my teenagers to get on. But part of the requirements in order to engage at the leadership level at my child's high school was that he have an Instagram account and share CCSD related content on the social platform. That was something I was opposed to, but didn't want to deny him the ability to be in leadership. And so I had to agree to that. So I think we need a whole government approach to how we're solving these problems, how we're approaching these platforms, and making sure that we are protecting the good while recognizing that predators exist in every platform, whether online or not, and that we are not handcuffing our Nevada consumers as well as our businesses and our parents by passing laws such as this. And I appreciate your time. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. This is Leanne McAllister, McAllister. I am the Executive Director of the Nevada chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics in opposition to SB 63. The connection between social media and mental health is complicated and personal. The diagnosis of the issues addressed by Nevada's SB 63 relating to unwanted contact, body image and disordered eating, and cyberbullying is largely accurate. The legislation correctly identifies the problem. However, the treatment plan demonstrates significant shortcomings. Specifically, the bill does nothing to protect the positive impacts of social media, including social connection, identity, civic engagement, and not to mention fun and entertainment. SB 63's treatment plan's failure stems from a lack of research. For more information on what research tells us about the impacts of social media has on youth, I offer the American Academy of Pediatrics Center of Excellence in Social Media and Youth Mental Health, which serves as a centralized, trusted source for evidence-based education and technical assistance to support the mental health of children and adolescents as they navigate social media. Thank you.
Chair, you have no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much, Broadcast. We are going to stick with you, Broadcast, and see if there's anyone in neutral on the phone lines.
If you would like to testify neutral on Senate Bill 63, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. We are going to welcome anyone in our physical locations who might be neutral on Senate Bill 63. I do not see anyone coming forward. Senator Flores, I thought, might have had a question, and I'm going to hand it over to him.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. And this is mostly for the folk from representing the private sector and who were in opposition. I'm curious to know, what is the process now for age verification? For example, if you're creating teen accounts or accounts for minors, what do you do now? What is the private sector doing now to verify the age? How do they make that determination that this accounts for a teen or a minor or whatever it may be? Is there anybody in the room that could speak on behalf of the client? And we may have missed all the individuals who could have potentially answered that question, or maybe if somebody's following on the phone and maybe could get back to me, just curious.
I think many of those that testify in opposition have already left the room. However, I hope that they're listening in and will respond, and we can always follow up with them by email later. So thank you so much. With that, I don't see anyone having come forward in neutral. No one was on the phone, so we are going to close out testimony on Senate Bill 63, and we will invite the Attorney General back for any closing comments.
Thank you so much, Senator Pazina and committee members for indulging us on this bill. Very important bill from our perspective, and thank you so much for the great questions. Senator Flores, in my estimation, hit the nail on the head. I was going to indicate that Meta's testimony far from detracting from my bill, supported my bill. If they are creating youth accounts already, then they are verifying age. And they're already talking about the fact that they had to get parental consent in order for the 16-year-olds to be able to get access to certain content. And so some of the concerns that they've raised, I think, have been belied by the testimony itself. Also, I would note that the testimony really doesn't refute the harms that we've indicated, and I'm glad to hear that. And while I'll always welcome additional suggestions on how better to improve the bill, we have given more than sufficient time, I believe, to the industry groups to come to us with suggestions on how to alleviate concerns, and have not quite received anything that would do that. In fact, I believe we've been told that there was really nothing that was going to alleviate the concerns relative to age verification. So it's incumbent upon me as the bill sponsor to do all that I can to fulfill the purposes of this bill. It's incumbent upon the committee to entertain those and ascertain whether we move forward or not. We remain committed with an open door policy to have conversations around this issue, but I do believe that the testimony you've heard today adequately demonstrates the need for this bill to stop the predation that's taking place, that my colleagues in the office and across the state are having to address every single day, to address the mental health issues that have been recognized by almost everyone testifying. And we appreciate the time, and have a great afternoon. Morning.
Thank you so much. And we definitely encourage further stakeholder discussions in the coming days, as we don't have a deadline for another couple weeks. So we thank you so much for being here, for presenting today. Again, it's always wonderful to see you and your team. So thank you for all of the hard work behind this bill, and thank you for everyone who took time out of your day to come and to testify, because we really appreciate everyone taking part in this process. And with that, we will close the bill hearing on Senate Bill 63, and we will move to our final order of business today, which is public comment. And we'd welcome anyone who's attending in person or who would like to call in to check out the agenda and get the call-in information and join us for public comment that has to do with commerce and labor and not with any of the bills that we have discussed so far today. We do look forward to hearing your comments and ask that you keep them brief and avoid repetition of comments made by previous speakers. Finally, clearly state and spell your name for the record. And we will begin here in Carson City and then move to Las Vegas if we have anyone there, and then to the phones.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Pazina and members of the committee. I was not able to be here, as in multiple things this morning during the hearing on SB 63, but I think the students who spoke on behalf of our school and their peers and everybody else who spoke captured my thoughts. I just wanted to comment on the process for your committee and also for Attorney General Ford's office. Our students have enjoyed the engagement. The back and forth has been respectful. They particularly appreciated this committee getting to come up and talk to you last time. And it was part of why we did this project of getting them engaged, so that looking at things that are happening on the national landscape, looking at some of the oppositional parts of our democracy, they didn't feel like there was no hope or they couldn't be engaged. And seeing my students on the TV down there, I'm super proud of them this morning. And the students have come up here now 4 times to speak to different committees. So thank you for hearing them. Thank you for warmly welcoming them. And thank you to the Attorney General's office for really pushing something that is hurting East Las Vegas and that our students have identified as a priority too. So thank you.
And thank you so much. And thank you so much again to the students. Our future is bright, and it was wonderful hearing from you today. I don't see, oh, did we get your name for the record? Let me just make sure.
Sorry, I'm bad at that part. It's Benjamin, Benjamin, Salko, Salkowe, and I'm with Equipo Academy, Equipo Academy.
Thank you so much again for being here, and it's great to see you and wonderful to see your students. Do we have, I don't see any more public comment in our physical location, so we're going to move back to the phones. Broadcast, do we have anyone on the phones who'd like to make public comment?
If you would like to participate in public comment, please press *9 now. Chair, you have no callers wishing to provide comment at this time.
Thank you so much. We will be back here on Monday morning, and I thank everyone for your time today on 3 excellent bill hearings, and we look forward to seeing you Monday morning. And for my vice chair, for Sunday, may the 4th be with him. And on that note, we are adjourned.